Story 1. I worked at a Toyota service department for a few months, and while it was generally terrible, today was the worst day I've ever had at any dealership. The layout of the place was awful. It's in South Carolina, where it's 95 F outside in February with 90% humidity. We don't have air conditioning in the service drive, where I work and where customers arrive. They even removed our desk fans because they looked bad and put one big fan in the center of the room. It doesn't help us at all, but at least it looks nice. We usually have over 100 appointments a day, split between 6 to 9 advisors, depending on staff availability. We had 6 who knew what to do and 3 newbies who were just learning that oil and 710 are the same fluid. When a customer comes in, we greet them, get the info from their car, and figure out their concerns. We also try to sell them services based on their past declined services and the pop-ups, like suggesting an oil change to a plug-in electric-only car. So yeah, there are issues. You need to get a customer in and out quickly, without problems, and with as many services added as possible to get paid. I was hired by an old manager of mine who had taken a new position and saw on Facebook that my fiancé and I had moved back into town. We're paid based on labor hours sold, a percentage of the parts profit we sell, bonuses for customer service, and bonuses for selling the most of the monthly item like air filters, batteries, brakes, etc., with no minimum pay. There's no hourly, daily, or base salary. Coming from my old job, I expected to be making twice as much with my numbers from there. One of the conditions of my hire was that I was not to drive customers' cars since their insurance wouldn't cover me. During my first 2 weeks of learning the programs, my old manager got an offer to move to another store and was replaced by a guy I'll call Chad. Chad was this hotshot who was going to set us up to be a top-tier service department and help us manage flow much better. Well, Chad came from a store that worked on an outdated system, something like Windows 98 BC. He knew nothing about the programs we were using or even what an emoji was. Wanting to help Chad out, I showed him some options for programs that would help us keep track of notes, reduce time away from our desks, and keep our technicians at their bays. He got us licensed to use them, and I set everything up. I set up our new programs and also started updating our old ones. I really wanted to make things easier day to day. I hated wasting paper and walking to parts to tell them something or asking my technician for an update. One of the programs I introduced was a flagging system that showed just the profiles you were assigned or created. Certain flags showed priority, and you could see all notes on all cars. You could message parts and flag your parts person directly. Instead of typing out, customer states, vehicle is vibrating at speeds of 45 miles per hour and above. Please inspect. Then on a new line, customer requests oil change, and another line. Customer would like vacuum but no wash. I made it so we could click options like vibration, front left, 45 miles per hour, loft, and vacuum, no wash. It would automatically add the text, print the correct part numbers for oil filters, write the oil spec and capacity, and organize everything neatly. I did this for about everything I could think of and kept adding more. I had it auto-send just the part numbers, ticket info, and book lines for internal, customer, warranty, and extended warranty services, all correctly entered to save time for everyone. I also made sure current recalls would always print based on the vehicle identification number so they weren't forgotten. I also ensured that our loaner vehicles could be checked in or out more easily, with instant access to all past agreements if something was found in the car or if damage occurred. These are just some examples, but I basically copied my profile with permissions for my boss and showed him how to give it to others. 6 months went by, no raise, no uniform as promised, and I was coming in on my days off to help with the programs. It's Monday, and this week I had a nail go straight through my foot at work. I Ubered to the hospital down the road, making sure not to remove the nail. I got it bandaged up but still went in every day for my 12-plus-hour shifts, walking around all day. From my desk, it's probably 100 yards to the car wash, 40 yards to the shop, etc. Because people still don't always use the system, and porters aren't bringing cars up. I'm not insured by the dealership, but I still have customers asking, "Where the heck is my Prius? I've been here for 26 minutes." So, I hobble down to the car wash where it most likely is, drive it through, and bring it up. My team for Saturday, 4 people had one person quit on Wednesday and another had a funeral to attend, so he had to leave early. The other guy was new, so he was slow to get things done. My boss said he would come in and help. On Wednesday, we locked it at 60 appointments since we were short-staffed up front and in the back. Saturdays are half technician and no diagnosis days. We do take walk-ins too. By Thursday, the count was up to 80, and we told our boss to lock it. Again, on Friday before closing, we saw 110 appointments. He never locked it and took Friday off. Come Saturday morning, we had 130 appointments from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. I was having to walk around a lot and ended up bleeding through 3 pairs of socks and bandages I swapped out. I had to chase down about 80% of our customers' cars because the porters who showed up were goofing off. By noon, I had 53 open tickets. We had a 4-hour wait for walk-ins, and even those with appointments had to wait. Usually, it would take us 30 minutes for an oil change from ticket printing to customer payment. Just for reference, I hadn't had lunch or a snack since they banned food and drinks at our desks. My friend was about to leave for the funeral, so I covered his remaining tickets, telling him not to worry about me. Then my boss left for lunch, throwing his 20 or so tickets on my desk. So, there I was, 110 tickets deep, helping the new guy with stuff, moving cars, and trying not to pass out. Oh, and it's 95 degrees Fahrenheit outside with no AC in our covered area, and 90% humidity, without even a breeze. I would stop by the water fountain near the car wash and dream about running through with the windows down and mouth open to cool off. By 3 p.m., I was rescheduling people who came in, trying to get everyone out when their cars were done, but I had to limp down to pull them in front so they could leave after paying. My boss still wasn't back, and the new guy quit. He wasn't doing much, but it was his first week, and today was just awful. I ended up getting into one car, and blood from my sock and shoe dripped onto the disposable paper mats in the car. I cleaned everything out, vacuumed the car, washed it, and pulled it up. The customer went absolutely berserk when she saw the blood on the disposable paper mat, complained about the weight, demanded a discount for her non-appointment service, and insisted on speaking to my manager. That was it, I wanted to talk to him too. I called him and was sent to voicemail. I explained everything to his mailbox and also texted him a brief summary. Then I called the general manager to explain that I had been alone for about 3 hours, dealing with an overwhelming number of customers, that 5 technicians had walked out, that I was still not recovered from my workplace injury, and that I was finishing my paperwork to take my lunch break at 4 p.m. with at least 50 customers still waiting. My boss showed up when I was about to leave to eat the lunch I brought, knowing the provided lunch would be gone before I could set my injured foot in the break room. He told me that in our state, I'm not legally entitled to a lunch break during a shift, and that I had to stay to finish out the customers on my tickets. It was after our regular hours at this point. I mentioned that I had been there since 6 a.m. to open the shop and pre-print everything, saying I just needed to relax. He said, "You didn't even clock in this morning, so unless you do what I say, you aren't getting paid." Once again, I'm paid on commission and a percentage of parts profit for stuff sold. I don't even get a penny an hour. So, I walked to my station, removed everyone's login copies of my permissions, deleted all of my notes, deleted all of my warranty macros I had set, all the spreadsheets, and reset every custom line I added to our programs. Since I was the original profile, this reset everything for everyone. When I walked out, I got a call as I got to my car asking, "Why isn't your login able to collect credit cards? Sounds like a problem, good luck with that." I've never taken anything illegal, but that drive home felt like what I imagined that might be like. To make things better, I had 2 cars there, so I had to go back to pick one up. While my fiancée kept saying how I should burn the place to the ground and how happy she was that I wouldn't be working for Chad anymore, We saw that the lights were still on in the general manager's office and the service department, with both of them there. I got in my car, tempted to do a huge burnout, but then I got a phone call. The general manager asked me to come back with a pay raise and fewer hours, but I knew it was nonsense. He wanted to know what went wrong that day and asked if I would come inside to discuss it with Chad and him. I just hung up and went home. Chad ended up getting let go the following month since he couldn't get things back up to speed. My good friend ended up getting moved to service manager for a bit, then ultimately moved to Mercedes as a parts person, and now he's a director. I ended up going to BMW for a bit after that and got promoted past Chad's position. Story 2. I live in a large multi-story ladies' hostel, and let me tell you, it's not exactly the most convenient place when it comes to charging your phone. There are no plug boards in our rooms, probably as a precaution, because with 400 of us, someone might plug in a straightener or an iron, forget about it, and cause a disaster. Instead, we have a communal plug board on each floor with about 15 plug holes. Each plug hole has its own switch nearby. Now, being in India, this setup might be a bit different from what some people are used to. To make matters worse, a few of those plug holes don't even work. And there's one in particular that always makes these weird crackling sounds and doesn't charge anything properly. Everyone knows it's faulty, so most people avoid it. One morning, I plugged my phone into one of the working plug holes to charge it while I went to have breakfast. When I came back, I noticed something that made my blood boil. Someone had unplugged my phone from the plug hole I was using and plugged in her own phone. Now, normally, I wouldn't be too upset if all the other plug holes were occupied. But here's the thing, there were plenty of free ones. She had intentionally taken my phone and charger out of that particular spot and put hers in. But that's not even the worst part. She didn't just move my phone, she plugged it into that faulty plug hole, the one that makes those crackling noises. My phone wasn't charging at all, and who knows what damage that faulty plug could have caused. I'm already broke, and the last thing I need is for my phone to get ruined because of someone's stupidity. I made a mental note of her phone case and charger color, a pink phone case and a black charger. From that day on, whenever I saw the girl with the pink phone case and black charger plug her phone in, I'd make sure to check if anyone was around. If the coast was clear, I'd casually turn off the switch of the plug hole she was using. I've done this so many times now, and I plan to keep doing it until I feel like she's paid the price for her rudeness. That girl can deal with her always half-charged phone now. Maybe next time she'll think twice before messing with someone else's stuff. Story 3. A bit of backstory before we dive in. This might be a long one, so get comfortable. I'm a 30-year-old autistic male with Tourette's, OCD, and depression. When I was a kid, I was misdiagnosed with ADHD. Side note. I later found out that doctors sometimes diagnose young children with ADHD instead of depression because it's less daunting. Due to my Tourette's, I blink or squint my eyes a lot, and I have some vocal tics like grunting, chirping, repeating words, and changing my voice. I don't have the form of Tourette's that involves vulgar language, but I do deal with these tics regularly. People often say I'm well-spoken for someone on the spectrum, but that's because I'm high-functioning and put in a lot of effort. Honestly, I'm more of a recluse. I mostly just go to work and then home, not socializing much outside of that. I work at a gas station, and I won't mention the name because I still work there, and in my state, my boss could fire me for it. However, they have a hard time firing me since I do everything from maintenance to it when needed, which saves them from hiring extra help. This multitasking led to my promotion to a manager position, and I'm currently working towards a job in their IT department. Just for context, I'm 6'3" tall, weigh about 320 pounds, and used to play football, so yeah, I'm a big guy. Working in customer service has made me a bit of a jerk at times, as you tend to see the ugly side of people more often than not. Now, on to the story. It was a busy day at the gas station, with the lottery selling like hotcakes because the jackpot was at $600 million, and another one was at $470 million. Just in the span of an hour, I sold nearly $1,000 worth of lottery tickets. At our store, we label lottery tickets as either online or scratch off, and it was the online tickets that were flying off the shelves. Around 4 p.m., I had a line of about 5 to 7 customers, mostly regulars, when Entitled Lottery Lady walked in. Now, I don't know if it was because it was January or because she was just that entitled, but I felt a chill as she entered. She pushed past people without saying excuse me or even acknowledging my greeting and went straight to the scratch-off tickets. We don't have an electronic dispenser at our store since we don't sell enough lottery tickets, but that day was busy because we allow customers to buy lottery tickets with credit or debit cards. I continued checking out customers, and by the time I reached the last 2 in line, 5 more people walked in. As I started ringing up the next customer, Entitled Lottery Lady loudly demanded, "Are you going to help me or just ignore me?" I'm not one to take rudeness lightly, so I responded, "If you want lottery tickets, you'll need to get in line like everyone else, as my register is not where you are." Entitled Lottery Lady snapped back, "You don't talk to customers that way." I replied, "A customer gets in line." She tried to argue that she was there before everyone else, but I wasn't having it. Realizing she wouldn't win, she huffed and got in line, but not before loudly declaring, "Don't you dare sell 13, 14, or 17, those are my tickets." Customer, who was next in line, asked for an online ticket, and then, with an evil smirk, requested, "Can you also get me 13, 14, and 17 scratch-offs?" Entitled Lottery Lady was too busy on her phone, probably ranting on Facebook, to notice. Customer left with his tickets, and after about 7-10 minutes, I finally got to Entitled Lottery Lady. She asked for her scratch-offs, and I rang them up. That's when customer come back, grinning even more than before. Entitled Lottery Lady suddenly exclaimed, "You sold me the wrong tickets." I explained that I sold her the next ones in the book, as per protocol. She then accused, "No, you didn't. I always look to see what numbers they are on, and if they have a white mark. You sold my tickets, didn't you?" I calmly responded, "It's first come, first served. We don't reserve tickets." That's when she demanded to speak to the manager, so I opened my jacket to reveal my name tag, showing her that I was the manager. Frustrated, she demanded the corporate office's number, which I gladly provided. As she walked away to make her call, customer came up to the counter, grinning even wider. Customer loudly said, "Yeah, that number 14 ticket I bought was a $200 winner. I'm cashing in and calling in to work." Entitled Lottery Lady, overhearing this, screamed, "That's my $200. Customer responded, "No, I bought the ticket, so it's my $200. In a desperate move, Entitled Lottery Lady handed him a $5 bill, to which customer just said, "Thanks," pocketing the money and cashing in the ticket. Entitled Lottery Lady looked smug, thinking she had just reclaimed her winnings, but when I handed customer the cash and he pocketed it, her face twisted in rage. She demanded, "Where's my $200? Customer simply replied, "As I said, I bought the ticket. It's my $200. Entitled Lottery Lady argued, "But I gave you money for the ticket." Customer shot back, "Did you? All you said was here, and handed me a $5 bill. If you don't specify what it's for, it's basically a gift. And who would trade $5 for $200? Entitled Lottery Lady, furious, yelled, "I'm calling the cops." I told her, "Why? You're the one in the wrong here." She then accused, "You're obviously on something, and he probably is too." I retorted, "How the heck do you figure that?" She sneered, "It's obvious. Why else would you blink so much?" At this point, I was done. I have Tourette's syndrome. Entitled Lottery Lady, not backing down, said, "That's a lie. It's just an excuse to cuss people out. So you must be one of the stupid people then, right?" She didn't actually say stupid, but you get the idea. Things escalated when Entitled Lottery Lady grabbed customer's shirt, and he swatted her hand away. By now, the store was filling up with more customers, An entitled lottery lady started crying and screaming that customer had assaulted her. I looked her dead in the face and said, "Leave. You assaulted him, and now you're trespassing." She only screamed louder, so I called the cops. Cop 1 arrived about 10 minutes later and took entitled lottery lady outside. Cop 2 arrived shortly after and came inside to ask what happened. Customer, some other customers, and I explained the situation. Cop 1 came in and asked, "Did customer assault her?" I replied, "Nope." She lunged at him, grabbed him, and he swatted her hand away. The other customers confirmed our side of the story, and the cops also checked the CCTV footage. Trying to lighten the mood, I joked, "She even thought I was on something because I have Tourette's." Cop 2 asked, "Did you tell her that's what you have?" I nodded. Yes, I did. After reviewing the camera footage, the cops decided to charge her with a hate crime for her comments. Cop 1 also mentioned that she claimed customer stole $5 from her, but after seeing the footage, it clearly looked like a gift. In the end, entitled lottery lady was taken to jail on multiple charges, and customer bought another $5 scratch-off with the bill she gave him for me to scratch. Of course, I won nothing. Story of my life. Edit. I went to work today, and it turns out she did call the main office, but they wrote her off as a crazy person. One of my regulars, who's a cop, told me she ended up getting a drug charge as well since she was under the influence. She'll likely be locked up for a while, but nothing is certain until she goes before a judge. Honestly, after the initial rush of the situation, I'm at the point where I don't really care about it anymore. I do hope she gets the help she needs, but beyond that, she's an adult who makes her own choices, good or bad. As long as it doesn't affect me, I'm fine. Story 4. A while back, I found out that a close friend of mine was talking badly about me behind my back. Let's call him Jerk. For example, I was dating a girl I had a crush on since high school. Everything was going well, fun and romantic, until Jerk told her best friend something bad that I supposedly did, which was a complete lie. She believed it, and that was the end of that relationship. He also spread rumors that I had no real friends and that people only hung out with me out of pity, another lie. Since I had known him for 10 years and considered him a close friend, I called him to ask what was going on. Instead of explaining, he started acting childish, literally repeating what I said in a mocking voice. Needless to say, I got angry. So, I decided to block him on everything. He has a problem with drinking. After just 2 beers, he becomes the most annoying jerk you can imagine. Not inviting him meant we wouldn't see him anymore, so that was that. But Jerk continued to talk trash about me, saying things like I was stalking his girlfriend and other nonsense. I kept ignoring him, but he just kept going. Fast forward 3 months. I had been ignoring him, and not much had been happening until one morning. I woke up, turned on my PS4, and saw in my notifications that I had quit a whole list of chat groups, and I accepted a friend request from XX Jerks, even though I had blocked him. At this point, I already knew what was going on. For those of you who don't, Jerk still had access to my gaming account since we used to share games. He logged into my account, spewed a bunch of nasty messages, then switched back to his own account and reported me for the offensive content. Naturally, Sony looked into it, saw the messages, and banned me. It started with just a 2-day ban, then a week, then a month, and finally, a permanent ban. The problem is, if your account is banned, you can't access the PlayStation Store, which means you lose access to your games. I knew it was him because the notification told me I had accepted his friend request. At this point, I was furious and ready to confront him. I called Sony and explained the situation. After 3 weeks, they finally got back to me, confirming that there had been an irregular login and unusual behavior. They unbanned my account, and my rage subsided a bit, but I was still out for some kind of payback. Fast forward another month or two, and I was gaming when I received a message from someone who claimed we had met on another game and needed help with a different one. I was in a helpful mood, so I decided to assist. We communicated only through messages since he didn't have a mic. Nothing seemed odd until he asked me what I thought of a certain downloadable content DLC pack. I replied, "It's great, but pretty tough, bro." Little did I know, it was Jerk on a different account, and he reported me again for saying something inappropriate. So, Sony banned my account again. I called them to explain, and it had to be sent to the moderators. I didn't hear back from them for 2 months. Meanwhile, I kept hearing stories about Jerk spreading more lies. When I finally heard from Sony, they told me they had warned me multiple times, and now the ban was permanent. I was enraged. This guy decided to take away $10,000 worth of games from me for no reason and didn't even have the guts to tell me why he was doing it. My initial plan was to find him and confront him, but we were in a sort of lockdown at the time, so I couldn't run into him anywhere. Word spread that I was on a warpath, and Jerk didn't show up for a few get-togethers. Whether it was a coincidence or he knew, I wasn't sure, but he wasn't around. I was fine with that. Fast forward another month, and Jerk broke up with his girlfriend. Suddenly, she contacted me. Turns out they broke up, and within 4 days, he had a new girlfriend. She was mad and had heard I was looking for him or his address. She was happy to help. I asked her about the whole situation, and she confirmed it was indeed him. Then I remembered, "Don't you use his account to download his games?" Turns out she did, so we came up with a plan. That night, around 2 a.m., she called me and said she was ready. I told some of my gaming buddies to be up as well if they were down for some revenge, and of course, they were. She logged into Jerk's account, I unblocked him, and we proceeded to send the most problematic and offensive messages we could think of, knowing full well what would happen. We had a couple of hours of fun, coming up with the most outrageous stuff. Naturally, his account got permanently banned as well. It felt good to get my revenge, but I still couldn't access my 400+ games, so I wasn't completely satisfied. 2 months later, I got a surprising email from Sony. After finally realizing that the previous warnings were not legitimate, they reinstated my account. So, in the end, I got my account back with all my games, and Jerk is left with a banned account and 300+ games he can no longer access. As for Jerk, I have no sympathy. He got what he deserved. Edit: some people have asked why I gave him access to my account in the first place. Back when we were close friends, games were expensive. New titles could easily cost $70. So, to save money, we shared our accounts. This way, I could download the games he bought, and he could download the ones I bought. We also split the cost of new games since we were sharing accounts anyway. It seemed like a good deal at the time, but obviously, things took a turn for the worse. Story 5. I used to work at a car dealership as a lot porter. My job was pretty straightforward, moving cars around the lot, making sure they were clean, and getting them ready for customers. It wasn't the most exciting job, but it paid the bills. However, things got complicated when I got into a car accident that totaled my vehicle right when I was in the process of buying a house. Now, if you've ever been in that situation, you know buying a new car while you're also buying a house isn't the smartest move, financially speaking. So, I held off on getting a new car until after the house deal was done. Not long after I closed on the house, I managed to land a job in a field I actually love. I was thrilled and immediately put in my 2 weeks' notice at the dealership. Since I had a new job lined up, I figured it was finally time to get a new car. The thing is, my wife had her heart set on a specific model that my dealership didn't sell, so we bought it from a different dealership. Plus, I knew all too well how slimy the place I worked at could be, and I wasn't about to get a car from them. A few days after I bought the house and the new car, one of the sales managers approached me at work. He had that "I'm about to make your day worse" look on his face. Sales manager: "So, are you ready to buy a car from us now?" I casually told him I'd already bought one, not mentioning that it was from a different dealership. His smile dropped, and he looked at me with the most serious expression. Sales manager: "Oh, really? So, you're ready to pack your things and leave then?" At first, I was stunned. I hadn't told anyone where I bought the car from, so it was clear he was making some kind of power move. But then I remembered I already had a better job lined up, one that could start immediately if need be. So I just shrugged. Me? Sure, I'll go pack my things. I turned around and headed straight for my locker. I wasn't going to argue or beg for my job. I knew the kind of people I was dealing with, and I wasn't about to give them the satisfaction of seeing me panic. As I started packing up, the sales manager must have realized I wasn't going to put up a fight because he suddenly started laughing. Sales manager: "Hey, I was just joking. We'd never fire anyone for buying a car somewhere else." But I wasn't buying it for a second. I knew of a few people who had been let go from that very dealership for doing exactly what I had done. They didn't make a big fuss about it, just quietly got rid of them. So I decided to call him out. Me: "I don't appreciate being fired as a joke. I've got a 1.5-year-old at home, and if I didn't have another job lined up, you could have seriously hurt me financially." His smile faded, and he started backtracking, but I wasn't interested in hearing any more of it. I finished packing my stuff, said my goodbyes, and left, feeling more relieved than anything. This job was never going to be my career, and I was glad to be done with it. The funny part, about 30 to 45 minutes after I left, I got a call from the same sales manager. He sounded frantic. Sales manager: "Hey, you left the keys to several brand new trucks in your desk. They need the plastic removed and parked." I couldn't help but laugh to myself. Since he had fired me, they made him take care of the work I left behind. It was like a little bit of instant karma. Me: "Sorry, man. I guess you'll have to handle that." And with that, I hung up. Now, I'm fully enjoying my new job with the best bosses I've ever had. I might have taken it a bit far by not telling him I already had a new job, but I don't regret it one bit. Story 6. Years ago, I worked as a truck driver and even owned my own trucks for a while. One of the companies I used to trip lease with had several different divisions. One day, I called them up to see if they had any freight available. I was told they couldn't load me until I spoke with Joe, not his real name. Joe was in charge of safety, which included handling driver records. Now, a bit of background on Joe: he was not the easiest person to get along with. He played favorites with the guys who worked out of the same terminal as he did, and he and I had clashed a few times before. When I called Joe, he refused to discuss anything over the phone and insisted that I see him in person. He also mentioned that they couldn't load me until I did. I brushed it off since I had about 15 other companies I was trip leasing with at the time. A week later, I happened to be in the area on personal business and decided to stop by to see Joe. He was unusually nice, which should have tipped me off that something was up. He kept me waiting for about 20 minutes before finally talking to me. Joe then informed me that they couldn't load me because my license was under suspension. I told him I'd take care of it and left. As soon as I drove off the property, I got pulled over by the state police. It was then that I realized Joe had set me up. That's why he kept me waiting for 20 minutes. He was giving the state police time to arrive. They arrested me and took me to jail on a Friday evening, so I didn't get to see the magistrate until Monday. After paying my fines and reinstatement fees, I went on my way. Now, I admit it was my fault for not paying the fine. To be honest, I got 3 tickets that day, and when I mailed them in 2 weeks later, I missed one. At that time, I was working almost 7 days a week, and all my mail was going to my brother's house. Unfortunately, my brother failed to inform me that he had mail from the state. Joe could have simply told me about the suspension so I could have taken care of it, but instead, he got me arrested. I held on to that grudge for about 8 or 9 years. Then, one day, I was out in my truck and saw one of their trucks from Joe's terminal. I got on the CB radio and called out to him. Me: "Hey, ABC Trucking, you got your radio on?" ABC: "Go ahead." Me: "Does Joe still work there?" ABC: "Yeah, he does." Why? Me: "That guy messed with me a while back. Tell him I haven't forgotten." ABC: "No kidding? What did he do?" Me: "I can't tell you. It might give away who I am." but you tell that guy I know where he lives, where his wife shops, where his daughters go to college, and even where they sleep at night. Tell him he messed with the wrong person. ABC, I'll pass it on. I kept this up every time I saw one of their trucks. About the fourth time, a driver told me that Joe was really scared. He had pulled his daughters out of college, wouldn't let his wife or daughters go anywhere without an escort, was driving different vehicles to work, and made his wife constantly change her shopping habits. I had completely disrupted their lives. The next time I saw one of their trucks, I told the driver to let Joe know that having escorts for his wife and daughters wouldn't help him. I kept Joe on edge, running scared, for about 2 years. I always took the information one driver gave me and used it in my next conversation with another driver, making Joe think someone was always watching him, even though I hadn't seen him since the day he got me arrested. I later found out that Joe became a lot less of a jerk after that.